The main elements of the microscope here are the objective of the microscope, which holds the optics that we use for magnifying on our sample, the sample bed here, which can be moved around, and the head of the microscope here, which can be rotated. On the microscope, there are many knobs and dials to take note of that will allow us to adjust our lighting and better improve our images. Some of these knobs and dials include the coarse and fine focusing dials down here. So there's a coarse dial in the back here, which allows you to make dramatic changes to your focusing. You have a fine dial here, which is used for making slight adjustments to your focusing in an attempt to get your best image. Next, there are the two dials back here. There's the one dial here for which is adjusting the coaxial light or CXI light and its intensity, and you can just rotate that back and forth. And what that'll do is if you have the CXI light enabled, it will decrease its intensity by putting a shutter over it. And this can be useful for a variety of samples, especially when they're highly reflective. The last knob here is this, on this side is this knob here. This knob is only useful when you're changing out the objectives of the microscope. Therefore, you shouldn't really use it. You shouldn't use it at all unless you're changing out the objectives. And that whole process will be covered in a later video. But for the most part, I wouldn't touch this one, but I would use this one a fair bit, the CXI shutter light, because it's very useful for reflective samples. The last piece of interest here is, of course, the magnification ring. This is this big red ring here. You can rotate it either counterclockwise or clockwise to increase or decrease your magnification. This is one of the few features that cannot be changed in the hardware, or the software, excuse me. You have to change the magnification on the microscope itself. But it's simple enough as just changing this dial and rotating it around. But that's the primary features of the knobs and dials thus far. Two unique features of this microscope are the ability to easily and quickly change out the base plate and rotate the head of the microscope. First, we'll cover rotating the head of the microscope. So this is the head of the microscope here. It is rather large and it is fairly sturdy. You can rotate the head of this, it's pretty easy, but please note that you do not want to rotate this under any circumstances without pushing for this metal knob in the back here. If you do not do this and just go and push the top of the microscope without doing that, you run the risk of dislodging it and breaking the microscope, which would be a very expensive mistake, so please do not do that. But to rotate the microscope, it's actually really quite simple. Just take this metal handle in the back, push it forward towards the front of the microscope, and you have freedom of rotation of about 30 degrees. This is also going to be reflected in the software. As you can see, if you over-rotate, you'll start to hear the microscope start beeping at you. If I can get it. So it will start beeping at you, sort of a faint beeping noise, so just be very alert when you're rotating it, as it is potentially could potentially damage the instrument, so just be careful. But overall, it's a very useful technique. The last thing I do want to cover here is changing out the base plate. So currently we have the basic no backlit base plate enabled, which is just a little piece of stone. It makes a good background because it's not super colorful or bright. But to change it out, it's really simple. You just take the base plate that you have in, you lift it up. As you can see, that's the bottom of the base plate right there. But there's no complicated circuitry or anything you have to change out to change the base plate. So just took that one out, and then we'll change it out with a light base plate. So this is the Leica DMD6 light base plate. Looks like this, and you can see that little connection up there corresponds with this connection here. So changing this out is really just as simple as sliding this into place. And then we could go into the software and enable the lighting or the backlighting feature of this sample. And this can be useful in a variety of circumstances, so just choose the base plate which best suits your needs.